What's good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of tickers out there. I'm going to talk about what news is coming up for the markets. It's going to be very important for tomorrow, what the news is saying about Tesla, and some very important things to watch for as we approach tomorrow and this week. But before breaking anything down with all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things before starting. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. The offer ends in just 4 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, guys, so tomorrow is going to be a very important day for Tesla because we're going to most likely see a very big test, and we're going to find out if Tesla's about to get a massive rug pull or if Tesla's about to try to continue pushing up even higher. And right now, when you look at the market, if you look at the dollar, if you look at Aapl, and if you look at the VIX, they're suggesting the market may try to push up a little bit higher, but the formations on SPY, the QQQ, Tesla, and a couple of other tickers are suggesting that we could also see a rejection. So they're very, very mixed right now. And the best thing you have to watch for is what news comes out for tomorrow and also how we react to some very critical resistance levels on Tesla and all these different charts. So we're going to be watching this very carefully to see if we truly are going to break out or if the market's going to cool off. And I want to break down even more details about this because there's something important that happened involving Jerome Powell. When Powell went up there and Powell was speaking, okay, the market came down, but that was a very, very nice liquidity grab after the first one. And then the bulls just took over. They pushed the market up very nicely, and they had control on Friday. So the question is this going to be a very big change in market structure? Will the market end up getting this rejection? I will talk more about the charts in just a few minutes. First, for tomorrow, however, let's talk about some data. There's nothing really big coming out except for the Fed Manufacturing Index. This is going to be coming out 1 hour after the market opens. Some more information about the manufacturing sector, and this could cause some volatility after the first hour. Once again, 1 hour after the market opens. After that, for Tuesday, there isn't really too much coming out except for the JOLTS job openings. So that's like 30 minutes after the market opens. For Wednesday, we have some expectations on PCE and some GDP numbers, which are not going to be that crazy, but it could cause some volatility. And then Thursday and Friday are going to be 2 big days as we have PCE data coming out and the Chicago PMI. The PCE data is going to be the big inflationary measure that the Fed looks at. So it's kind of like a CPI release coming out for Thursday. And then for Friday, we have, once again, all of these important PMI numbers. The unemployment numbers are going to be very important. The unemployment rates coming out. That's going to cause some big volatility. So get ready for that for Friday. And it's also going to be September 1st. So we're already in September. The year is like closing. Super, super fast year, if anything. But anyways, just going back, I just want to mention that for Monday, so we don't have to worry too much about the end of the week. Monday is just tomorrow, and all you have to worry about is the Fed Manufacturing Index 1 hour after the market opens. There's nothing much else coming out from there. And then when it comes to earnings, nothing's coming out for Monday, but for Tuesday, we have like Neo, Best Buy, and just a couple of retail, nothing too big overall. Neo is going to be one worth watching, in my opinion, at least for me. So besides that, nothing too big for earnings. Now, as far as Tesla goes, there's news that came out that Tesla's supercharger business is going to be reaching $20 billion in revenue. That is absolutely incredible. And the projections are, in my opinion, very possible for Tesla as we're starting to see the supercharger business growing. We're starting to see the energy business in itself growing too. And I think that this is going to continue to get bigger and bigger for Tesla as more companies adopt Tesla's chargers and more companies are involved in this. So this is big for Tesla. Tesla has gotten a lot of exposure and a lot of share in this market, and it's going to continue to grow as time goes on. So that's bullish news. There are also some FSD updates that came out. I just want to mention these. There's some like new cabin camera updates that came out to improve the overall positioning and to help them out, to help drivers out when people are trying to like back up and do things like that. That's going to be very useful for them. We have the FSD improvements that were made when it comes to the way in which the paths are looking. There was also this update right here to avoid going off route. So they're trying to improve that as well. Improved short deadline lane changes. That's also going to be a little bit more helpful. I saw something else that was a little bit better. So some like visualization improvements. There was something else I saw. I think this one is what's there. The FSD beta suspension is now going to be another update. So basically, if they realize, okay, when they track the way in which individuals use them, if there's improper usage, if that is detected, it's going to suspend the FSD for particular users. And this is going to depend on how they use it. Are they disengaging it at the wrong time? Are they messing up? Are they not being like attentive? Because you have to be very attentive when using this nonetheless, right? This is just a beta. The beta is not perfect. So that's a very, very important update. Make sure you're prepared for that in case you are driving a Tesla. Anyways, when it comes to the way Tesla's inventory levels are looking, not looking that great in my opinion. So the Model S inventory has been going up as of recent. Same thing with the Model 3. It still has been respecting an uptrend. And then the Model Y has been going down just a little bit, but it still is relatively hot. All these different models are starting to show signs of slowing demand, at least to some extent, because where they're currently standing is a lot higher than where they used to be, except for like the Model 3. So we will see if this continues as time goes on. I think it's very clear that Tesla told us the truth about Q3, as there are some slowdowns. Production has been pretty decent so far. There were some cuts in Germany as of recent. So we'll see what this leads to during the next report that's coming out very soon. But for now, I just want to keep looking at this and just to see if we end up seeing big drops in their inventory. So far, it's continuing to go up, which is not the best of signs. The volume on Tesla is pretty decent at 106 million, very close to average, and the short volume is still kind of flat right now at about like 50%. So it's very much just like mixed volume. Looking at some other pieces of data, Tesla still has those equal weight ratings. The price price ratio is kind of flat right now. So it's kind of like showing signs that Tesla's trying to hold up, very similar to the market. And then looking at the price comparison, it's moving very similar to SPY. Tesla is tracking it very nicely, same with the QQQ. If anything, it could also like dictate them to some extent. And it's been very volatile as of recent. So watch it during the third hour, not to mention during like the fifth or sixth hour of the day. Those are some of the most volatile hours for Tesla when we tend to see a lot of upside. At least most of the upside happens during those hours a lot of the time historically. You also don't want to forget that Mondays tend to be green about 53% of the time. And we're going to be watching what happens moving forward because September, we're getting very close to September. September tends to be a weak month for Tesla, October as well. But I think this was kind of skewed because of last year. I think I would say that it's more like towards September, whereas October is when we tend to see Tesla turn. And I think the end of the year could still be very strong for Tesla as we have the Cybertruck coming out, new updates about it. Maybe the pricing or something else is going to really improve the share prices action. I'm very positive and optimistic about that. Now, the short sale volume has been dropping a little bit. That's a good sign for Tesla. It's not being heavily shorted like before. Look at the short interest on Tesla. It dropped quite a bit. A lot of shorts learned their lessons. That's not really that smart to short Tesla right here when it's very close to the Cybertruck delivery date. Could it drop a little bit in the future? Sure, it can. But like I said before, things are not looking that bad because just for reference, guys, if you look at, for instance, like SPY's charts on the monthly charts, I've been talking about this before. This is not out of the ordinary. If you look at what this chart looks like, you will notice that on the monthly, we have this really nice looking cup forming on SPY. And this is important because the market was pumping for many months in a row, right? Tesla was also pumping for quite a while. We have this nice monthly looking setup. We're getting a very healthy pullback. And so far, it's just a pullback in my eyes. Now, for the month of September, if there is a little bit more downside that eventually comes, right? Maybe the market tries to bounce a little bit, then it happens, or however it happens. This is still set for, in my opinion, as long as there's not any like major catalyst that shakes the markets that's like so bad. As long as that doesn't happen, this is set for more upside to end the year. I would say for like November especially. I think there's going to be a very, very nice run. And the structure is still looking bullish with the inverse head and shoulders. And that's good for Tesla. On the monthly as well for Tesla, it still is respecting a nice uptrend. Could there be more downside in the future? Sure. But to close the year, I think Tesla still has some nice potential to try to continue pushing. You could even argue there's like a slanted inverse head and shoulders forming on it. It's going to slowly uptrend its way back up to these highs as the months pass, going into like 2024. That is still a possibility for Tesla. So just keep this in the back of your mind as well. Could this thing pull back for like the shorter term for the next few weeks, next month or so? Sure. But for the end of the year, November especially, I think there's a lot of potential for Tesla to push with the market. Anyways, now I want to break down some other important things. I'm going to switch to TradingView for this final part of the video. So I'm going to talk about the charts. Tomorrow is going to be very critical. I'm just going to talk about tomorrow specifically, not the bigger trend. For tomorrow, I just want to mention that Tesla has a very, very interesting looking setup. Now, like I said earlier, the dollar and Aapl and the VIX are all suggesting the market could actually start pushing. But Tesla has a rising wedge that formed, and we also have this head and shoulders pattern. So I don't know if we're going to get some bad news to cause a rejection or if Tesla's going to start pushing. This is going to depend on this test tomorrow. So what do I mean by that? So Tesla's going to push up most likely. We're going to likely get a push and a test of this 242 area. I find that very probable. Maybe it like comes down a little bit, then it tries pushing, but I think it's going to test 242. And we're going to see, does Tesla reject off of this because of some bad news? If it does reject, then the head and shoulders could be valid on this. You guys see this head and shoulders? This could be valid, and this could cause Tesla to sink if there's some very bad news. But if the market, if Apple truly does have a cup and handle that breaks out, I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. If the VIX is truly telling us that the market's going to cool off, then there's a possibility that the market's going to push and Tesla could invalidate this head and shoulders. It could just be a big trap. If this is a trap, you're going to be watching 242. If we break that, it's going to test this high right here at 244. If that breaks, there's a chance Tesla could break out and try to approach 250, or maybe not that high, like 248 to 250 could come. Even if that happens, it does not mean Tesla's going to just continue to push forever. It could always reject off that because of some other catalyst like PCE or whatever and come right back down to these levels and just continue chopping, maybe even drop in the future again. So I want to make that as clear as possible. I'm not turning into like a perma bull and saying Tesla's going to run forever. We're just going to be watching this test right here. Do we break 242 on Tesla or do we get a rejection? That is going to be key for tomorrow. If it breaks out of it, you're going to be watching 244. If that breaks, 246, 248, even 250 are possibilities. If it rejects, you're going to be watching 240, 238 as some key supports. And if it breaks below 238, it's going to sink all the way down. Did I say 230? I meant 238. 238 is going to be key. If that breaks, it's going to come down to 235, and we're going to see a bigger drop from there. If 234 breaks, we're going to be watching 230 to 228. I think what's very probable is this test will happen. The rising wedge makes me think that there is a possibility it's going to reject and come down because of some bad news tomorrow, but I'm just going to be open-minded and watch for the confirmation. Rising wedges don't mean anything until we truly get the break to the downside. Watch for the break just for confirmation. Anyways, on SPY, this is also looking very, very interesting. When we look at the charts, you're going to be noticing that we have something very similar. Basically, there's this head and shoulders like setup that could be developing. Now, if we get this test at 242 and we reject off of it, you're going to be watching sorry, did I say two? 442. Sorry about that, guys. 442 is going to be our level to watch for on SPY. If 440 rejects, and we end up hitting 442 and we just fail from there, you're going to be watching 440. If that fails us, watch 438. If that fails us, it's going to sink all the way back down to these lows right here. So 440 is going to be key for support, not to mention 442 is resistance. If we get the break out of this channel, so we have this channel that's been respecting for quite some time. If we break out of it, right? If we truly see Apple break out, we see the VIX sink. If it breaks 442, this thing is going to test 444. Then potentially, if that breaks, the high right here. If it also breaks that, it could push all the way up to 451 from there. Sorry, guys, I keep mixing my numbers. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, that's going to be very important. If we could break 451 from there, 451 will come if we manage to break above 446.5 or this high right about here, especially if we get above 444. Those are going to be some key levels. If we reject in the future, it could always come right back down. So I'm not saying the market's going to just indefinitely just run and run and run. This is also a possibility, but we'll have to watch and see how it moves. So we could be forming, once again, a very nice looking structure on SPY right here. We're going to be watching for this test. Basically, it's going to try to test 442 in my opinion. And if it breaks or not, that's going to be determining which way the market goes. What's dictating all of this is going to be Apple. If you look at Apple very carefully, the thing about Apple is this is looking more bullish than bearish, because when you look at the market structure, we made a higher high and a higher low, and it's looking like it's trying to push up higher. It also has a cup and handle like formation. We have these imbalances up here. So if Apple, tests 180 and we reject off of it, we could start sinking back down to like 176. If we break 180, it's going to push all the way up to about 182. And if it breaks that, it could just keep going a little bit higher, and that could become bullish for the markets temporarily. So we're going to be watching this test. In my opinion, it looks more bullish. It looks like Apple's going to try to push up to at least 180 plus, if not 182. It looks more bullish, but we have to watch for the confirmation. This makes me think the market could try to bounce. The dollar is doing something very different, though. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Looking at the QQQ, same thing is going on with it, right? The QQQ has a head and shoulders. We're going to be watching, do we break this resistance right here at this 366 to 367 area? If it breaks out, you're going to be watching these imbalances that could push it all the way up to 372, then reject all the way up there. If we fail to do so, we could get this rejection and start sinking. Now, we made a bullish divergence right here, and we broke this high. The question is, do we establish a higher low and then try to keep pushing, or is there not going to be a change in market structure? Could this head and shoulders play out? Yes, but we have to watch for the rejection just as confirmation. If it keeps breaking out, then the exact opposite could still happen. So just be open minded to that. We want to be as unbiased as possible. Nvidia is going to likely try to bounce, in my opinion. It's going to try to bounce a little bit, and then we're going to see, are we going to maintain this structure? Will Nvidia keep making these lower highs and lower lows over and over again like this? So will the red line end up playing out because of that? Or will we hold this support? Because look at all these tests and these touches. We touched it, we bounced, we touched this, we bounced, touched it and bounced. That's like actually 4 times technically right here. So this 450 area is key for Nvidia. And it likes to bounce off this, especially when it forms these divergences. So it's going to likely test, in my opinion, 470. Does 470 end up breaking? If it breaks 470, this thing can start pushing a lot nicer. If it fails to break 470, we could see this thing start sinking a little bit lower. So that's going to be the key test. My gut is telling me it's going to try to break out a little bit. We might see the market temporarily try, but just to be safe, we want to be very, very open-minded. Now, on Friday, one thing worth mentioning is that SPY, it came down to about 435. And then when it came down to this level, the bulls came in, they took over. So will the bulls keep on pushing the markets? They could do that, but we have to break this area right here. If that breaks, the market could start pushing up. If not, it is what it is. The head and shoulders could play out. So we have to watch for the news. Just try to be open-minded during this test. I really can't predict exactly which way it's going to go, but I do want to mention that I'm a little concerned about this rising wedge on Tesla. May get the rejection, but watch for a break below this just as your confirmation if we get some kind of bad news. It looks a little bit more bearish for that reason, but just to be safe, we want to watch for the break just to be safe, okay? So I'm open-minded. I want to watch this level right here, 242 on Tesla. If it rejects, then it is what it is. If not, we just want to be open-minded to the test. So that's what I have for this video. And I'm just going to briefly talk about just a couple of others. We're going to be watching something like AMD. You want to see if AMD could hold above this area. I mean, if it breaks above 102, you're going to be watching for a 104 retest. And if that breaks out, 107 is on the table. If it fails to hold this 100 area, then it could start sinking. It looks like it's going to try to push up for this previous resistance right here as we form the bullish divergence. So I think 105 is going to be tested on AMD. And we're going to be watching to see if that holds or not. For other stocks out there, such as NEO may try to pop approaching its earnings. We're going to be watching this thing approach 11.3, maybe even this imbalance up here around 11.33, then 11.5. It could try to bounce as we have a triple bullish divergence and earnings is approaching for it. So that's going to be worth watching. Just a couple of others. If you look at, for instance, the VIX has a potential head and shoulders developing on it as well. You could see it better, I think, on the daily chart or maybe even the 30 minutes. I'm going to double check that. So technically, there could be this, head and shoulders developing on it. I think the 30-minute chart looks a little bit better though. So with this head and shoulders, if this plays out and we see the VIX start sinking down to these lows down here, this is looking a little bit more bearish. If this plays out, the VIX could start sinking because of the market pumping. The VIX is suggesting that's very probable if we break below like 14.5 to retest like the 14s. 13.96 could be retest if we break. Looks more bearish. That tells me that the market could try pushing. The dollar is also forming a bearish divergence right here. If this gets that break, if this is like a head and shoulders on the dollar, then the dollar might like pop a little bit, then come right back down. And that could be because of the market pushing. So we have some signals suggesting that. It all depends on these tests. On Amazon, watch and see if it could hold 134. If it breaks above that, then 136 plus is possible. If it rejects and comes below 130, then we could be sinking towards 128. For Meta, we're going to be watching it to retest 290 at the 200 EMA. Could be forming an inverse head and shoulders right here, right? It might just kind of maintain these levels and try pushing later on. There's a possibility of that on Meta. So watch that break above 290. If that breaks, this thing could start pushing. So we want to be open-minded. For Coinbase, you're going to be watching if this thing could try to push up. I think it's going to get a retest of this 200 EMA. I think it has a really nice amount of potential to do so. We're going to be watching to see if this is like a head and shoulders or not. It's going to likely retest the 200, very close to this like 75 area. If it rejects, it's going to start sinking back down to 72. If it breaks above 75, we can start pushing for 80 plus and start breaking out. I think the odds favor a retest at the very least, and we will see if it breaks out or not. That's going to be a very critical test. Same thing with Google. Can Google try to break above 132? If it breaks this, it's going to start pushing for 135 plus. If 132 rejects on Google, it's going to start sinking all the way back down, in my opinion, to about 128 or lower. So we're going to be watching these levels carefully. We're going to be watching these tests on the markets. I know that oftentimes I try to give you guys my predictions, but it's a little tricky this time around because, like I said before, the VIX, the dollar, Aapl are suggesting the market is going to push. The stock market is going to try pushing upwards for quite a while, whereas SPY, QQQ, and Tesla have these bearish formations with the head and shoulders that could also cause or be, leading the market to slowing down. So it's very mixed signals. I want to be open-minded and just watch these tests and just get ready for that for tomorrow. So with that said, I thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, and we will see if this head and shoulders plays out or not on Tesla. It could just start breaking out and it may not play out. It could just be a trap, or it may end up happening. So watch 242 for the big important level for tomorrow. That's going to be key for Tesla. Now, with that said, have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the weekend. I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Thank you. Market to the moon as the long term is still incredibly bright, and peace out.